Okay, we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to another SPFBO guest author live here on the channel. My name is Katherine D. Graham. I'm a dark fantasy author, and I'm not in tonight's blog, which is the Weatherwax Reports blog for SPFBO. I'm on the Fantasy Book Critics blog, but today I have three brand new authors to introduce everybody to who's participating under the Weatherwax Report blog. We've got Joseph on, we have A.L. Lawrenson on, we have Sienna on. Welcome, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Yeah, good.
Great, thank you.
We were talking before we went live about how we're like all over the world, and we're chatting a little about our experiences submitting to SPFBO or SPFBO, as it's affectionately called. And for those who are joining who haven't seen the other panels, SPFBO is a blog off where 300 authors all submitted our books to a sort of competition that Mark Lawrence hosts and coordinates. Those 300 books are split among 10 blogs, 30 books each, and then each blog picks a book to put forward as a semifinalist, and then all the judges will read those books, and then one winner will come out of that those groups by the end. So we're very early on. The contest officially starts June 1st. But tell me a little bit about yourselves and what kind of fantasy you write. And then we're going to get into what we were talking about before we went live, just about the chaos of getting in this year in under an hour. Joseph, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Joe Lee. I write what can loosely be called historical fantasy, I suppose. I entered the Bleeding Stone this year, which is kind of like a deconstruction of history being written by the victors. The second book in the series, The Children of the Black Moon, actually comes out next week. That one comes out on Tuesday. So, read Bleeding Stone, you immediately get a sequel. Hooray! But yeah, I mainly focus on right now historical epic fantasy, and yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So historical is then based in our world, but fantasy.
More like inspired by our world, like historical fantasy in the way you could call the Poppy War or like Powder Mage historical fantasy.
Awesome. Well, so good to meet you. This is my first time meeting you, meeting Sienna. A.L., you've been on the channel before.
I sure have.
For those who didn't see you the last time, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of fantasy you write?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm A.L. Lawrenson. I published my first novel last year as well. And hopefully getting number 2 out this fall. Mine is Forever Greens and Aspen Trees. Oh, there we go. We're backwards. Okay. And so this is an epic sword and sorcery fantasy, more like Noble Bright themes and stuff with a little bit darker elements too. This book I started writing when I was 11 years old, and then finished it at 14 and promptly started rewriting it because I finished it when I was 14. And so it was a long time coming, but I was really, really happy to get that out there. So,
Yes, very excited to have another book out this fall.
Yes, very much so. It won't take me 14 years again. That is my goal as a business person from here on out, is that no other book will take me 14 years or longer. So I think I'm well on my way to meeting that at least.
Winning.
It's a pretty solid goal.
Yeah. And Sienna, you said this is your first year too, right?
This is my first year because I missed last year. It was supposed to be last year because the book came out in late 2019. So I was actually, no, 2020, 2021, sorry. So I'm Sienna Frost. People call me Faye. Sienna Frost is my pen name. I'm from Bangkok. I'm Thai. I live here permanently. Some people think I live in the US and I live here permanently. So my time difference makes everything difficult. I also cannot do a lot of promotions in the US as well because I'm not that. But I've been writing since I was 12, and I've been posting on the internet mostly. I've been a web novel writer, and this is my the debut that I entered, Obsidian Awakening.
Wow.
This book actually has been on Wattpad for years, 3 or 4 years. It took me 7 years to write, and received very well by Wattpad readers, and readers wanted me to publish. That was the reason why I've never actually thought of publishing at all. Before that, I was just writing for fun. I was just writing to meet my readers, and then they wanted a paperback, and they wanted a whole book, not just chapters on the internet. So I created this. I did that, and then they said, well, you might as well publish. So I did, and I'm here.
Wow.
So, this is probably this is my debut, but it's really not, because this is probably my third series or 7th book or whatever. So it's very exciting and stressful for me because I was not ready for this. I didn't even plan anything when I released it. It was just, this is for my readers, and they wanted paperback, so I created like a really nice one with pictures and stuff for them. And it was, I have my readers to thank for being here. What I write is I usually write lots of things. I write romance. I've written erotica as well. This time I'm writing historical fantasy, like close to Joseph. It's more of a literary fantasy where it showcases the flaws and the good things about humanity and why it's still worth saving, even though the world is horrible and you see all these people doing horrible things to each other. I feel like the point I want to make is to point out the flaws of humans where it's not entirely their fault. Sorry, my cat. Yes, and then make it beautiful.
Yes.
Because I think the victims of the world need that. So that's Obsidian. It's more of a serious kind of fantasy that without magic or anything, but it's a made-up world.
Awesome. And so we saw your cat, Joseph.
That's Malik. That's she's the most famous cat, actually, because I got about 5 million views on her when I adopted her. I picked her up. She looks like Gremlin. Actually, a lot of my followers came from Malay, not my book. So just to get the record straight, I'm not famous yet.
Today you're like, one day my books will be as famous as my cat.
Yes.
Life goal right there. Joseph, AL, you guys have a cat or a pet that helps you write?
No, I often fantasize about stealing my parents' dog, but the closest that I can ever get to it is dog sitting for them. But I live in an apartment where technically I'm not allowed to have a dog, but I've never actually asked my landlord. But I probably revisit that discussion like maybe next year or something.
So this year, if you're like, I'm a SPFBO participant, can I have a cat now or a dog now?
Yeah. Hey, I have notoriety now. You're gonna.
That's right.
Do you know who I am?
At least like 7 people know who I am now.
I've got 2 cats. One of them is the bud that likes to hang out in the same room as you, but doesn't like to be close. And then I have another one who's super needy, but doesn't like to be held. And I don't know how that works out, but it does. So she'll either curl up on my feet, or she loves this pillow right here. And so she'll come and she'll jump up, and then her butt will be right up against my neck. And so I'm sitting here writing like this because I don't want her to fall.
Yeah.
So those are my writing buddies.
and I've got 3. Three, but one is really mine, and the other
I
is
have
my husband.
4.
Yay, 2, 3, 4. And Joseph's getting a dog next year, maybe.
Yeah, fingers
That's
crossed.
why it took me 7 years to write. One is always on the keyboard, the other one is on your mouse.
Yeah,
Joe, I think we need to start a petition for you, like,
Yeah,
for you to give to your landlord.
Yeah, because like the cat is a no-go because my fiance is like super allergic to cats. So
yeah, we'll start a petition for a dog or a naked cat.
Yeah, either or.
One of the Sphinx cats. So we were talking before we hopped on about the chaos that was getting into SPFBO the first time this year a little bit. And Joseph, I know I didn't hear as much from yours, so I'm actually going to let you kick us off. And we're just going to rehash real briefly for maybe potential authors who are thinking about doing this next year.
I think Sienna should go last because she has the best story. So
yeah, and like I have like the easiest story, so like I'm
okay. Let's hear it
first.
This is how you do it the easy way. Take notes.
because it was so low stress for me because they opened up at 8 for me, and it was 8 a.m. for me. Wednesdays is one of my work from home days, and weekdays I'm usually up at 6 a.m. anyway. So it was literally just get onto my computer like a few minutes before I normally would for work, and then just did the SPFBO stuff, and I was done in 2 minutes. So like I was all submitted at like 8:01.
And then the Twitter chaos began.
Yeah, then I just watched it all unfold, and like, by the time I logged on to Twitter at like 8:03, I think Mark said that there were like already 150 people in. So it was like, ooh, this is much quicker than it was last year. But yeah, no, and then it was mainly just me just looking at Twitter, and I was watching a live stream with like a few other SPFBO entrants, like Andrew D. Meredith was doing a live stream with Tori Tekin and Michael Roberti and Thiago Abdallah. So I was just watching that and just watching all the updates happen after that. But yeah, 9. It was very low stress for me, apart from the whole stressing leading up to it. But the actual act of entering was extremely low stress for me.
Yeah, I was on that same kickoff interview that morning with Andrew, and just making notes before time. And he was like, make sure you have tabs up with like your Goodreads page, and make sure you have a tab up with your, your book cover and your actual book file and all this stuff, and you're ready to go. And it made me feel much more prepared, but I felt so anxious. And when it was done, I was like, that's it. So
yeah, I was expecting like the Google Sheet to crash or something. So like, but yeah, like I had tabs open. I had Amazon and Goodreads open. I downloaded my EPUB file like 5 times, just to make sure like nothing was screwy. But yeah, apart from the general anxiety of the everything about me, like the actual doing was fine.
Awesome. So yeah, if you're thinking of doing this next year, have everything open and ready, and yeah. But how about you, AL? How was your experience?
Oh man, so for me, it like again the process was super easy, but like the beforehand. So right now I'm training for a new job, and so like every other week I'm at home or I am staying at somebody else's house for an entire week, and so I'm only at home like half the time. And so that particular week I was staying at somebody else's house, so it's in a strange bed, everything else, and it was at the entry time was 6:00 my time in the morning. And I was like, that's fine. I'm usually up at 6 anyway. I'll just set my alarm for 5:30 and it'll be fine. Make sure I have everything ready. I am a chronic overthinker, especially when I'm sleeping. And so at like 5:15 in the morning, I just like shot up. Like I was like, what happened? Like, I don't even know.
What time is it? What year is it?
And so I shot up and then I grabbed my phone. I was like, did my alarm go off? Like, are we good? Like, what's happening? And then I realized what time it was. I was like, well, I am like super extra awake right now. So I'll just like check everything. And so I went to the website, checked it. And I was so glad that like Google Sheet where they're like, hey, here are the questions that we're going to be asking you. This isn't the real one, but like, here's this. I was like, oh, thank goodness. And so I went through it. And what I did is instead of like opening all of my tabs, I just grabbed my links and put them onto a sticky note on my, like one of the digital sticky notes on my computer. And so as soon as it opened up, I, copied and pasted, put everything in, it closed, and then I went to work. And so I didn't check it for another like 2 hours. And I opened it and I saw that, because I was expecting, because the previous year it had taken 9 hours to fill. So it's like, oh, I'm curious like how it's going. I opened it up and noticed that it had closed in like less than 45 minutes. And so I was like, did I get it in on time? I don't know. And so I like obsessively went through my email, even though I knew I'd gotten it in less than 5 minutes. I still was like, maybe I missed it. I don't know. And so like I checked my email and I checked like the timestamp of like confirmation it sends, and it said 6:02, and then I was still like, but maybe it didn't make it. Maybe I'm still on the waiting list. I don't know. And so like I was obsessing about it all day long. And then when like when Zach Argyle's list came up with all the pictures of the books, and I saw my book there, I was like, okay, I'm fine. It's all good. And so like the stress just lasts me like all day long. But that, like, again, adding it in was super easy. But the stress, like, find some stress management tools, please. If you're thinking about doing this, like, find ways to do that, and maybe don't like gasp yourself awake at 5:15 in the morning.
So you knew ahead of time that it was gonna be tough to get in, right? You're gonna have to be quick.
Yeah, I mean, for some of these things, I just have rotten luck when it comes to like entering anything or like getting orders for things that I really want. And so I was like, I'm just going to set my alarm and I'm going to do it. And I also know I'm not going to have time to do it while I'm at work. So I'll just do it as soon as it enters. And then I know for sure that I'm in there. And even when I did enter, as soon as it opened, I still didn't know for sure that I was in there, because that's just how my brain works.
It's very organized of you, though.
Yes. And, I think whenever there's something really important that's looming, even though the alarm's set, it's like I wake up way more times in the night. And I'm like, did I miss it? Am I awake? But I work really late at night. I'm an editor, and I usually do most of my work when my boys go to bed. So I was up till, I want to say 2 or 3 that morning. And then I was like, okay, I've got to be up at like 6:45 to be on with Andrew and them. So I'm just gonna nap, just a short nap. Yeah. All right, Sienna, the story.
Oh yeah, I was huge. I threw a huge tantrum last year when I missed it, because I've known about SPFBO forever. I'm a big fan of Mark Lawrence. I'm a big fan of grimdark fantasy. I wanted to enter like 6 months before I knew. I set my alarm. Well, I didn't set my alarm, but I put it on my calendar that I have to be in SPFBO. But I didn't know that was my fault, right? I'm unorganized. And I just thought it was like a normal contest where you could just enter. There was no limit to participants, and that I didn't know it was going to fill up so fast. So I didn't know that I have to, and I was busy that evening. It was open around 7 p.m. my time, so it was at the end of the day. I have to fix dinner. I just came home from work, and I was busy with the kids, and I just got really tired. I thought I'd enter in the morning, and I woke up in the morning. Somebody said, "Well, you missed people." I was literally crying. Seriously, it was like that. It was that moment, because you've been looking forward to do this for a long time, and you think like this is like I want to join the party, and it failed. I told people you don't understand, because I've been really looking forward to this, and it feels like Cinderella missing the ball, like really missing the ball. And then it hurts even more when I go into Twitter and everybody's like so excited that they got it. And it hurts even worse when I do a big tantrum and I was crying, and a lot of people know. So this year everyone was direct messaging me like, hey, SPFBO is on in 2 days. I'm gonna yell at you every hour.
Like, get up.
it was really nice to have so many readers and reviewers who have loved my book, texting me. It was like, are you ready? I'm just reminding you this year, miss it again. So this year I was prepared well ahead. I was going to enter the first minute anyway, but it was 7. But on the, I did what Lawrenson did as well. So I looked at the questionnaire before I copied everything into a sticky note. I was reading it through like 10 times just to make sure I uploaded my file. Luckily, I uploaded my file to iCloud Drive, so I have it on all the devices. Because what happened was at 7, I was supposed to be home by 6, and then Bangkok traffic, unexpected Bangkok traffic, had me in the car still in the middle of the road at 7 p.m. So by 6:45, I was telling my husband, who was like driving, I was like, what am I gonna do? Because I'm afraid if I do this and if the file uploaded, wrongly and stuff, if it's corrupted, then I might get in, but then they might check, and then the file is not okay, and then I'm gonna miss it. Something bad is. This month has been really horrible for me. It's just one bad thing happened after another, one bad luck after another. Like everything broke down, and
Then you got here.
I was stuck in traffic at 7, and I was like, I was really anxious. And what if this is my other bad luck? What if I miss it this year? But yeah, I had no choice, so I did it on my phone. Actually, it was on my phone. I tried to submit. I was able to pull the file from my cloud drive. Thank God. I was thinking like maybe I would lose internet in the middle. But yeah, I didn't. I got in, and I was still worried because I was like, what if I answered some question wrong? Did I miss anything? Because it was on a phone, everything was tiny, and I was literally shaking. So I even when I saw the confirmation email, it just said that it accepted your document, right? It didn't say anything if you did something correctly. So I was anxious from for months, for years, up until I actually saw the list that my book was in there.
Yeah. Well,
So
congratulations.
my Twitter feed was really exciting because everybody knew I missed it last year, and they were so happy I made it this year, especially when it filled up so quickly. They were worried, but I did post like the first minute, like I got in. And I got congratulations already for not, making finalists or anything. It was like, just getting in was, deserves a congratulation and people cheering. Yeah. So if anyone missed it too and are gonna enter again, your book next year, I would recommend it because it went from 9 hours to 45 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if next year it was filled
It's
in
minutes.
5. Yeah.
I told somebody on a previous live.
It would be a battle of who can talk faster and take them out. So
the Disney reservations, you have to get up at like the crack of dawn.
And stuff.
All right, so the first panel, everybody talked a little bit about their heroes. In the second panel, everybody talked about their villains, and then we talked about favorite side characters. So today, we're going to talk about the best friend, the main character's best friend. If they don't have a best friend, maybe a potential love interest. But we're going to talk about the best friend, how they see the main character's journey, and make that a little sort of hook into the story. How big a role they play in the book. You don't have to give spoilers, obviously, but how big a role they play and how they see the main character's journey through the book. AL, you want to kick us off on this one?
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So I'm really excited about this one because most of my readers are like, okay, I love this character most. So I'm like, cool. It's too bad he's not the main character, but that's fine. So my main character's best friend, his name is Styrax. And they are soldiers together in the king's army, and they're currently at war with all the ancient races. So Styrax, Tristan's really quickly backstory. Tristan had I can't brain today. It's fine. Tristan received a brain injury and lost basically all of his memories. And so all he remembers is the past 5 years of his life where he's been at this fort. And Styrax actually is the one that like first became friends with him when he was at this fort. He was all like bandaged and gross and bloody and like super awkward, and everybody thought he was like a spy or something. They're like, we don't know who this dude is. Our general's kind of playing favorites with him. It's weird. We don't like him. And Styrax was just like, you know what? It's fine. I see this lost little boy, and I'm just gonna go make friends with him because I can. And so the very first chapter after the prologue is Styrax like making friends with Tristan. Tristan's all in his head and worried, and he's like, I don't know who I am, and all these people think they know who I am, so I don't even know anymore. And so Styrax comes to him and he's like, hey, why are you letting these people decide who you are? You know you better than anybody else. Like, they don't know you at all, so you just gonna be you. And so really that's like Styrax's role throughout the whole book for Tristan is he calls himself like a purveyor of wisdom. He's an all-wise sage. But really he's just there as like a guiding, calming, and grounding influence for Tristan. And throughout this journey, he sees the good in Tristan, and he sees what Tristan can become. And he just wants to help Tristan get there. And he sees Tristan making mistakes and everything, and he's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? In a loving, like, kind way, but he's still just like, I want what's best for you, and I know you can be better than this, so let's work on that together, and let me help you through that. And I just like love Styrax. He's also the comic relief because you have to have some of that somewhere. Anyway, that's the best friend in my book.
Awesome. Joseph, how about you?
Okay, yeah. So my main character, her name is Sen, and her best friend / also love interest is named Narva. Like for like context of the story a bit, it's set like during like a war of conquest by foreign invaders, but like from the perspective of the indigenous peoples who are being invaded. So this is set about 15 years after that begins. Sen, because of the circumstances of her birth, she's kind of viewed as an outcast within her amongst her people. But Narva, like basically from childhood, is one of the few people who like treats her with dignity and respect. And growing up, obviously it was like a very close friendship. As I get older, there's very clear mutual romantic interest amongst one another. And kind of playing around with that, where nothing becomes definitive until later on. It was definitely a lot of fun to play with, kind of doing that will they, won't they, that I didn't fully intend to do when I started out, but then was like, you know what, this will be fun. Why not? And so the one of like the main kicking off points of the plot in the Bleeding Stone, I won't get into it for spoiler reasons, but it triggers kind of like a journey south for Sen, and Narva tags along with her. So it's kind of a rescue mission, and to have kind of like that support for Sen, where she's never really had much support growing up, and he's really been like the main constant of support for her. It was a lot of fun to kind of like center the dialogue and their interactions around that. And because of Sen's treatment growing up, and she deals with depression, anxiety, alcoholism, and Narva is kind of like and later on also like some post-traumatic stress episodes. So Narva is kind of like support system for that. And as someone who has who deals with depression, deals with anxiety, having those support systems like in my own life, it was kind of easy to kind of draw inspiration from a lot of people in my life who've kind of been that way for me as well. So it was definitely drawing from real life experiences, also just creating fun, weird scenarios for them to shenanigan about in, and it was a fun dynamic to write for sure.
Yeah, I love when the side characters and best friends are so deep, because it makes this main character and their story so much more realistic than someone who's just like, oh, here's a bunch of people who are here just to move the plot, forward. And it seems like there's a lot of big character focused books this year in SPFBO, so really excited.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of character driven stories, and that's kind of what I did here. It was much more not to say like there's no plot, but it's not as plot focused as it is character driven. So that's just kind of how it turned out to be. But I was really happy with the different dynamics that I was able to make here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Sienna, how about you and your main character's best friend?
You actually picked the topic where it's most difficult for me because none of them have friends. I wouldn't even say best friends.
Oh,
I have 7 main characters, this being a story of war, and it's pretty depressing. And even if they have friends, I would probably write a relationship where they end up having to betray each other because of war. And but so the closest thing I have, which it's more than friendship, it's more of a love interest that can never be.
Oh,
All of my couples are like that, because also, like I said, it's a story of war and the carnage of war and what it forces you to do, what it forces you to sacrifice if you have decided to fight for your country, for your land. So two of the 7 main characters are Dajari and Hashim. Dajari is a 16-year-old girl, daughter of a leader of the tribe, which is at war with an empire. She has been raised as a chosen one who would eventually end this war. And she's very responsible. She would agree to an arranged marriage beforehand. She was raised for that, just to gain more army to fight, and she's willing to sacrifice everything. She's very motivated. Hashim, on the other hand, is also from her land, and he was taken as a slave into the enemy's land. He became a male escort. That's something you don't see very often in fantasy. He's very pretty, and he was trained by a master assassin as well. So he's a male escort / assassin. And his choice was to thrive in that environment. So even though he was a slave, still he was a famous one. And then he ended up messed up and killed someone important. He had to flee. So they met back in his homeland, where he doesn't belong anymore because he was there since like 6, 7. And so it's about him going back to his homeland, discovering what life is as to live in a tribe. And then the Jaris pretty much saved him, and he became her sworn sword. What happens is that he finally finds a purpose in her, and she, as someone who is forced to sacrifice all her choices, all her personal choices for the war, chooses him as her swan song, and he is the only thing that was purely her choice. So they have that kind of relationship where she protects him all the time, as I want to keep him with me because he is the only choice I get to make myself. And he is super loyal to her because she also saved him and gave him a purpose. So they have that kind of, but they both know that she is going to have to marry for an army. So they are stuck together and dragged through this together with that really unbreakable bond, and knowing that it would lead nowhere. So what I always describe to my readers is you have to be prepared that she is going to drag him by the neck through every heartbreak. And
yeah,
what are you guys doing? Yeah, so that is the tragedy of that couple, but it's also they're one of the readers' most favorite because of that born he sworn to protect her, she is sworn to protect him as well as her swan song. But the and then the other couple is more like friendship, but they're also lovers because they're gay. I have a gay couple in there too, and this one is I love them, and I have to talk about them because one is an oracle. I won't say names. I will just say
you have to read the book.
There's a surprise in that because this guy just pops up and you wouldn't know who he was until it's a big surprise reveal. So I don't want to mention the other guy's name, his love interest name, but Nazar is an oracle who is I always feel like when people write oracles, they always find it a gift, and I find it an absolute curse. Because when you know the future, it doesn't mean you only know what you need to do. You would know that you would see the death. You would probably see the death of every loved ones if you were a really good oracle.
Luna.
You would know. You would have lived. One of Nazar's answer of what it feels like to be an oracle is that you lived your whole life by the age of 10. Imagine knowing when you will die. Imagine knowing how you will die, how your lover will die, how your sister, your parents will die, and actually seeing it because he sees it in his vision. He cannot control his visions at all. They just come. It's not one of those where he lights a candle and then they come. He cannot choose. They just pop up in his head, and then he knows. So he has to live with all of these things since he was 10, and they haunt him, and he's very close to. He has this mental instability because of them. And the thing is, this guy who happens to be from the enemy's tribe, so they're not even supposed to be together. But what happens is only in this guy's presence that his visions don't come. So they are drawn to each other that way.
I love that there's such a difference. You got AL's book where he's choosing to be a friend and he sort of takes control. You got Joseph's book where they sort of have this friendship develop more naturally, maybe, like less actively. And then you have your book, Sienna, where they're friends in spite of everything being thrown against them. So it's like we have the whole gambit here.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect word. In spite of.
In spite of, I know we're running a little late, and I appreciate everybody who's tuned in and stayed on. But I have linked all of these authors' books in the description box so that you can go read them. And I've also put a link to the Weatherwax Reports blog, because as the judges go through the books, they'll be posting reports on or reviews on the blog. So you can follow there. And if you'd like to see the whole list, because this is only 3 people out of the 30 in this blog, Zach Argyle has put together a great list. And there's also one by Trudy who's out, or True who's out. But Zach's you can filter by KU book. You can filter it by audiobook. My TBR list is so sad right now, if I'm being just totally honest with you guys. But yeah, 300 amazing books. Thank you all so much for hopping on and chatting with me and sharing your experiences and about your books.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The opportunity.
It's such a pleasure. I wish you all the best of luck. I wish us all the best of luck. Oh, but yes, everybody, if you'd like to meet more of the authors in SPFBO, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We have several more panels coming with all different kinds of fantasy authors, all indies. It's going to be a lot of fun. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye. Good luck to everyone.